Time. We speak of it, chase it, curse it, and cling to it. It orders our lives, ticks silently through our veins, and yet, do we truly understand what it is? Beneath the ticking hands of every clock, beyond the calendar pages we so obediently follow, lies an ancient secret. One so profound it was carved into temple walls, veiled in myth, and encoded in the sacred architecture of pyramids and star maps. It is the secret that time, as we've been taught to perceive it, is an illusion. What we call time is not a straight line marching from past to future. It is not the enemy, not a thief that steals youth or a tyrant dragging us toward decay. Time is a spiral, a wave, a pulse. It is a living field of consciousness we were meant to dance with, not be enslaved by. And in that remembrance, something begins to shift. The ancients knew this. To the Maya, time was sacred geometry, a divine unfolding of synchronicities and cosmic rhythms. To the Egyptians, time wasn't a thing to manage, but a force to align with. They understood its dual nature, ka and ba, the body and the soul, traveling on different currents of temporality. In the Hermetic teachings, time could be transcended, folded, even mastered, because it was never external to you in the first place. You were never just in time. Time is in you. And what if this is the great deception? Not death, not suffering, but the belief that time is fixed, that it's linear, that you are at its mercy. What if your deepest regrets, your sense of not being there yet, the anxious urgency that plagues the modern soul, what if all of that arises from a false map of reality? What if you've been navigating a dream using someone else's clock? Because once you begin to truly perceive the living nature of time, not with your mind, but with the intuitive memory of your soul, everything begins to change. You don't just learn to manage your life differently, you begin to remember a different kind of existence, a rhythm that pulses beneath the noise, a spiral path where past and future bend inward toward an eternal now. And in that eternal now, you're not running out of time, you're waking up within it. So pause, breathe. There is something moving beneath the surface of your awareness, a quiet current pulling you toward remembrance. The ancient ones whispered of it, the mystics trained for it. And now, you are being called to reclaim it. Because time is not slipping away from you, you are returning to its source. If this message resonates, if it stirs something deep and nameless inside you, then like, comment, and subscribe. Not just to follow a channel, but to stay close to this unfolding. Because the deeper truths of time are not a philosophy, they are a reorientation of reality itself. To truly understand the ancient secret of time, we must begin by unraveling the illusion we've inherited. Most of us were taught to see time as a straight arrow past behind us, future ahead, the present slipping through our fingers like sand. But this model is not truth, it is a mental framework. A consensus hallucination born from a fragmented world. And when consciousness aligns with fragmentation, we lose access to the deeper architecture of existence. In the metaphysical traditions from the Hermetica to Vedic cosmology, time is not a line. It is a field, a nested spiral, a multi-dimensional mirror. Events are not isolated points on a ruler, but vibrational intersections in an infinite field of potential. You are not moving through time. Time is moving through you. And each moment you experience is not a random accident, but a harmonic node, a pulse within the divine geometry of your soul's journey. This is why indigenous timekeepers, like the Hopi or the Dogon, never spoke of time in hours and minutes. They spoke of right moments, sacred seasons, living cycles. For them, time was not something to measure, but something to enter, something you tuned into, like a song or a wave. The Gregorian calendar, for all its utility, severed us from that song. It was a blade disguised as a clock, cutting our days into artificial segments, divorcing the soul from the rhythm of stars, the breath of earth, the spiral motion of the cosmos. Quantum physics, strangely enough, now echoes what mystics have said for millennia, that time is not absolute, that what we call past and future are subjective relative to the observer. Experiments reveal that particles can retroactively respond to measurements taken after the fact, as though time bends inward on itself. And if reality responds to the observer, then it means your consciousness is not a passenger of time. It is the composer of it. You shape the timeline by how you perceive, believe, and feel. This is not poetic exaggeration, it is quantum fact. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotional signatures, these are not merely reactions to events. They are the tuning forks that attract specific moments to your timeline. You have likely felt this before. A strange synchronicity, a prophetic dream, a moment where time seemed to stretch, loop, or stand still. These are not anomalies. They are glimpses of how time truly behaves when you begin to wake up within it. The soul does not operate on chronological time. It remembers all at once. It moves through resonance, not sequence. This is why, when you heal a deep wound in the present, you often feel a ripple backward through your life, as if your inner child exhales in relief. And it's why choosing a higher vibration now reshapes the probabilities of your future. The past is not fixed, the future is not written, time is plastic, memory is a spell, and presence is a portal. To live in harmony with this truth is to step out of the prison of linearity and into the freedom of alignment. It is to stop racing the clock and start listening to the current. Because every sacred teaching whispers the same truth. There is a time beyond time, a moment outside the clock. And when you live from there, you are no longer the victim of time, you become its co-creator. And if this message stirs something ancient in your soul, subscribe, because the next part of this series goes even deeper. To understand time in its deepest essence, we must turn to the language of symbols. For when truths grow too vast for logic to hold, the ancients turned to myth not to escape reality, but to reveal what lies beneath it. Within the symbols passed down through sacred art, mystery schools, and ancient texts, are keys to the soul's perception of time not as a sequence, but as a spiral, a mirror, a doorway. Consider the Ouroboros, the serpent, eating its own tail, found in Egyptian tombs, Gnostic manuscripts, and alchemical scrolls. It is not merely a symbol of eternity, it is the map of cyclical time. Creation consuming itself, endings birthing beginnings, the past always returning in new forms. It teaches that time is not a line that dies, but a circle that lives, and within that circle, we are not trapped, but transformed. Then there is the labyrinth, an archetype older than history. Unlike a maze, it holds no dead ends, only a winding path inward and then back out again. You've seen this pattern in your own life, haven't you? Lessons that repeat until understood, patterns that echo, louder each time. A spiral staircase of awareness where each turn brings you back to the same place, but not as the same person. That is time's deeper intelligence. It doesn't just pass, it teaches, it reveals, it refines. The myth of Chronos and Kairos in Greek tradition also whispers a forgotten truth. Chronos is chronological time, the time of the ticking clock, of age, schedules, decay. But Kairos is sacred time, divine timing, the moment of initiation, the now that bursts open with eternity inside it. Kairos is the soul's time, the shiver down your spine when something clicks, the crossroads moment when everything changes, not because the hour was right, but because you were. And the great pyramids of Egypt, time-coded structures built with cosmic precision, remind us that time was once aligned to the heavens, not abstracted from them. Their stones speak not just of death or tombs, but of resurrection, of stellar timing, of the soul's journey through the underworld and back to light. Even the great year, the 26-0-year cycle of precession, reveals how civilizations rise and fall in patterns, golden ages and dark nights, turning not by accident, but by cosmic rhythm. Humanity too moves through time like a phoenix, burning, rebirthing, remembering. Perhaps this is why prophets speak in dreams and visions, not because they predict the future, but because they pierce the veil of linearity. They listen to time sideways. And mystics in altered states often return saying the same thing. Time collapsed. I saw all my lifetimes at once. There was only presence. These are not hallucinations. They are initiations. Glimpses of time's true form. And once glimpsed, they change you forever. Even in your dreams, you move through time differently. Moments stretch, stories rearrange, hours pass in minutes. Because in dreams, you are closer to the truth that time is fluid, that your consciousness can swim upstream and downstream, that memory and prophecy are not opposites but reflections. And if this sounds poetic, it's because poetry is the only language vast enough to hold what time truly is. Not a rule, but a rhythm. Not a schedule, but a soul current. Not a container, but a consciousness. If this message stirs something ancient in your soul, subscribe, because what comes next reveals even more. What does it mean to live with this awareness? To no longer see time as a rigid schedule, but as a sacred rhythm? The shift begins subtly. Like the turning of a great wheel, it starts with inner alignment. Not with clocks, but with coherence. With listening, not to the noise of urgency, but to the quieter pulse beneath it, the one that speaks through intuition, synchronicity, and stillness. You begin to realize that not all minutes are equal. 1 hour in alignment can carry more power than years of scattered motion. This is the paradox that mystics have always known, that when you slow down, you speed up. Because presence is not passive, presence is magnetic. It draws clarity, opportunity, and transformation into your field like gravity draws stars into constellations. And so you start living by kairos, not chronos. You start asking, not, what time is it? But, what is this moment asking of me? You begin to feel when it's time to act and when it's time to wait. You no longer force outcomes on artificial timelines because you trust that life is not late. You learn to sense the difference between the ego's urgency and the soul's timing. And that difference changes everything. In relationships, this awareness softens you. You stop trying to rush others through their process. You recognize that each soul blooms in its own season. That trying to harvest too soon only wounds the roots. You begin to honor timing as an intelligence, not something to control, but something to align with. You allow sacred pauses. You listen for divine timing. You stop saying, "I'm behind," and start asking, "What is this season for?" In healing, this perspective brings compassion. You realize that pain takes time to alchemize, not because healing is slow, but because it is precise. It unfolds in layers, like petals revealing a hidden center. You stop racing towards some imagined state of completion and instead walk your spiral path with reverence, knowing that every step brings you closer to your true center. Even your work begins to shift. You might find yourself less interested in productivity for its own sake and more drawn to meaningful creation work that honors flow, not just output. You become more receptive to inspiration, knowing it arrives like a tide, not a tap. And when it comes, you move with it. You begin to shape your days around energy, not just obligation. Around coherence, not exhaustion. This isn't about abandoning the structures of the world, it's about remembering you are not defined by them. You can still keep appointments. You can still meet deadlines. But beneath it all, a deeper awareness hums, that you are not a prisoner of time, you are its steward. And as your perception expands, you start noticing the subtle magic that was always there. The meaningful coincidences, the perfect timing, the way a thought you had ripples into the world like a signal, the way life begins to meet you at your level of awareness. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to reclaim your relationship with aging. You stop seeing it as a linear decline and start seeing it as a spiral of embodiment. You recognize that wisdom is not a product of time past, but of presence deepened. That youth is a frequency, and aliveness has no age. When you live from soul time, your face may change, but your light does not dim. It grows clearer, brighter, truer. Because to live with this awareness is to shift from managing time to co-creating with it. It is to become timeless, not by escaping the world, but by fully entering it awake, aware, attuned. It is to remember that every moment is a seed, and what you plant now echoes through dimensions. You are not late, you are right on time. The spiral has brought you here, now, for a reason. And so, here you are, not at the end of a video, but standing at the threshold of a deeper remembrance. Time, once seen as your master, reveals itself now as your mirror, your guide, your co-creative dance partner. The old belief that you are trapped within it dissolves like mist beneath a rising sun, and something ancient begins to stir behind your eyes. A knowing, a recognition, not from the mind, but from the soul that you were never here to race the clock. You are here to remember you are the clock. You are the moment that time has been waiting for. All along, the secret was not hidden from you, it was hidden within you. Beneath the anxious ticking, beneath the deadlines and digital schedules, beneath the cultural hypnosis of not enough, there lives a radiant truth. Time flows with your consciousness. It bends for presence. It expands for meaning. It dissolves for love. And when you align your life to that inner current, you don't just awaken, you realign reality itself. This is the great shift the ancients whispered of. Not a shift in calendar years, but in awareness. Not a prophecy on the horizon, but a reclamation of perception. You were taught to measure time. Now you are being called to embody it. To live as one who listens to the pulse beneath appearances, who knows when to act and when to be still, who trusts that the soul unfolds in sacred timing, no matter how chaotic the surface appears. You are not here to chase the future or fix the past. You are here to collapse the distance between who you've been and who you are becoming. That collapse happens not in some distant moment, it happens in the now. The now that stretches in all directions. The now that folds time like silk. The now that your higher self always lives in. And maybe, just maybe, the reason you felt out of place in this world is because you were born with the memory of a different kind of time, a time that breathes, that sings, that spirals. A time in which magic is not a myth, but a natural consequence of presence. That memory is not a mistake, it is a map, and it has brought you to this exact moment for a reason. You were not running out of time. Time is returning to you. So slow down, not to disconnect, but to tune in, sit with the wind, watch the moon, feel the breath moving through your body like tides through an ancient sea. These are the clocks that never lie. Let them remind you who you are. Let them remind you that you are not behind. You are right on time for your awakening, right on time for your remembering, right on time for your soul to finally say, I remember what I came here to do. The forgotten light in you is remembering. Don't turn away now. If this message opens something in your heart, a memory, a vision, a silence you've longed for, share your reflection in the comments. Let your voice echo in this sacred space. Subscribe for more deep dives into ancient wisdom and soul-awakening truth. And if you feel called, share this message with someone else walking the spiral path. Because when one of us remembers, it sends a signal through the field, and others awaken too. Welcome back to the real time. Welcome home.